Has any Prime Minister ever taken a worse set of debt and deficit figures to an election?
Yeah. Who's the question to?
The question, well, I didn't hear who the question was directed to. I don't need members on my right to be giving me gratuitous advice. Thank you.
Speaker, I began by saying the question was to the Prime Minister. You interrupted and then called the member. If it assists the House, I'm happy to restate in full.
Members on my right. I'll get you to state the question again, Member for Fenner.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. Has any Prime Minister ever taken a worse set of debt and deficit figures to an election?
The Prime Minister has a call.
Mr Speaker, I thank the member for his question on debt and deficit, Mr Speaker. Well, I can tell him that we've just had the biggest rebound in a budget, Mr Speaker, in 70 years, and I haven't seen a Prime Minister do that in a very long time in this place, Mr Speaker, because over the course of just the last 12 months, we have had a $100 billion improvement in the budget over the forward estimates, which enables us, Mr Speaker, to invest for the future, definitely, but also to provide the cost of living relief here and now. Now, Mr Speaker, I hear those opposite talk about debt and deficit, Mr Speaker, and they ask, Mr Speaker, what have we got to show for it? We've got 700,000 people who are still in jobs, Mr Speaker, to show for it, Mr Speaker. We've got a Western Sydney airport that's being built that the Leader of the Opposition, when he was Transport Minister for 6 years, couldn't get even off the ground, Mr Speaker. He couldn't even get it off the ground. And here he is chipping away, Mr Speaker. He spoke about it for 11 years in opposition. 11 years in opposition, whining about the Western Sydney airport. He had 6 years to do something about it, and he didn't even dig a hole, Mr Speaker.
The Prime Minister will resume his seat. Has the Prime Minister concluded his answer? Has the Prime Minister concluded his answer? No. The Deputy Manager of Opposition Business on a point of order.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. On direct relevance was a very tight question that contained no element of alternative policies.
The Deputy Manager of Opposition Business will resume his seat. On the contrary, the question was not a very tight question. When questions are asked in the way that they were, that is certainly leading a broad response. The Prime Minister has the call. No, the Prime Minister has the call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The investments and the economic interventions that this government has made during the course of the pandemic saved the Australian economy. It kept 700,000 people in jobs. It ensured, Mr Speaker, with more than $40 billion of investment in our health response, Mr Speaker, ensured we saved 40,000 lives. 40,000 lives. And we have, Mr Speaker, on the Global Pandemic Preparedness Index, Australia is rated second in the world. That's what it achieved, Mr Speaker. An achievement of the Australian people that has been barely matched anywhere around the world. And we stepped up in the pandemic. And what we hear from the opposition with these chips about these issues is they're for it and they're against it, Mr Speaker. They're against it and they're for it. We've even heard it, Mr Speaker, from the shadow treasurer over there, Mr Speaker. Shadow treasurer, who's today saying they're going to support the cost of living measures even though they don't support them, Mr Speaker. That's what we've heard from the Labor Party, classic Labor Party. They support things just as much as they oppose things. And that's why on Thursday night, Mr Speaker, I'll be listening out for the alternative budget. But I don't think I'll get one, Mr Speaker. I'll be listening out for it for the alternative plan. Our plan, Mr Speaker.
I'll just remind the Prime Minister there's nothing in the question about alternative policy.
Understand. Mr Speaker, our plan, the Australian people know, is set out in this budget. Our plan, Mr Speaker, sets out the investments in manufacturing, in energy, Mr Speaker, in dams, in roads, Mr Speaker, in lower taxes, and ensuring we're supporting Australia to deal with cost of living pressures right now.